Some legends are just stories, until you see them with your own eyes. Tonight, we're diving into the terrifying tale of two teenagers who broke into an abandoned asylum and uncovered the horrifying truth behind the legend of Chuckles the Patient. If you thought urban legends weren't real, this story might change your mind. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and let's begin. I don't tell this story often. Most people wouldn't believe me anyway. But every time I drive past the overgrown lot where the old Willowbrook Asylum once stood, I feel that same shiver crawl down my spine. It's been years since that night, but the memory has teeth. It bites when I least expect it. I was 16 when it happened. Back then, Willowbrook was already a hollowed-out husk, abandoned for over a decade. Local kids whispered about the horrors that took place there: neglect, abuse, patients locked away and forgotten. Every town has a place like that, the kind adults warn you to stay away from, which of course just makes teenagers want to go even more. The legend that haunted Willowbrook was a man they called Chuckles. Supposedly, he was a patient the staff feared, violent, unpredictable, with a laugh that echoed through the halls no matter what was happening. The story went that when the asylum was shut down in a rush, one patient was left behind. Some said it was by accident. Others whispered it was intentional because no one wanted Chuckles out in the world. He was chained in a special isolation cell, strapped to a gurney in what staff called the quiet room. By the time anyone realized he'd been left behind, the building was already boarded up, the doors chained shut. They said he died screaming, laughing, starving to death in the dark. Of course, it was the kind of tale older kids told at sleepovers, a dare wrapped in a ghost story. And me being 16, reckless and desperate to impress, I decided to go see for myself. My friend Evan came with me. He was the only one I trusted not to back out. We waited until after midnight, hopped the rusted chain-link fence, and crept toward the main building. The place loomed against the moonlight like a jagged shadow, windows smashed, roof caved in at places, ivy clawing up the brick walls. The air was thick with mildew and rot. Even before we went inside, I could feel the silence pressing on me, like the building was holding its breath, waiting. We slipped through a side door where the wood had rotted away. Inside, the asylum smelled of mold, rust, and something worse, like old copper and spoiled meat. Our flashlights cut through the darkness in narrow beams, revealing graffiti, peeling paint, and long corridors choked with debris. Evan was grinning, acting tough, but I could see the way his hand trembled on the flashlight. Mine wasn't much steadier. We passed rusted wheelchairs, overturned filing cabinets, and rooms where patient records lay scattered across the floor like dead leaves. Every sound seemed amplified: the drip of water from broken pipes, the crunch of plaster under our shoes, the distant creak of the building settling. And then we found it. At the end of a narrow hallway was a steel door. Across it, in jagged red spray paint, someone had scrawled a single word. The letters dripped down the metal like blood. Evan stopped, his grin fading. "No way," he muttered. "This is it. The quiet room." I wanted to back out right then, but pride kept my feet planted. I reached for the handle. It groaned as I turned it, hinges shrieking as the door creaked open. The smell hit first, something dry and sour like old decay baked into the walls. Inside was a small, windowless room. The paint had bubbled and peeled, exposing concrete beneath. Chains hung from the walls, broken at the ends. In the center sat a gurney, rusted, its leather straps snapped and curled like dead snakes. And on that gurney, there was a body, or what was left of one. The corpse had decayed down to little more than bones and scraps of cloth clinging to them. The skull was tilted back, jaw open wide as though frozen mid-laugh. Empty sockets stared at the ceiling. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. My brain couldn't process what my eyes were seeing. This wasn't a prop, wasn't some prank left behind by vandals. The smell, the brittle edges of bone, this was real. Evan whispered, "Holy shit, it's him. It's really him." The legend wasn't just a story. Someone really had been left here. That should have been enough to send us running. But we lingered, transfixed by the horror of it. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted proof for the others at school. Maybe part of me couldn't look away. I stepped closer, shining my flashlight on the skull. That's when I heard it. A sound so faint I thought it was in my head at first. A laugh. Not loud, not booming. Just a whisper of sound like air forced through dry, cracked lips. It echoed faintly off the walls. I froze. My chest tightened. My flashlight beam shook across the gurney. The skull hadn't moved. The body was still. And yet, the sound grew louder. A raspy, choking chuckle. Evan hissed, "Tell me you heard that." I nodded, my mouth too dry to answer. Then the gurney shifted. Just a fraction, but enough that the rusted wheels creaked against the floor. We bolted. We tore through the hallways, our flashlights bouncing wildly across graffiti and broken glass. Behind us, faint at first but growing louder, came that laugh. It chased us through the corridors, echoing off the walls, impossible to pinpoint. High-pitched and hysterical, then low and guttural as though more than one voice was laughing. Every turn we took, it followed. Left. Evan shouted, and we careened into a stairwell, clattering down 2 flights. My lungs burned, my legs shaking, but adrenaline kept me moving. When we hit the ground floor, the exit was in sight, just a sliver of moonlight through the rotted doorway. We sprinted for it, and then something slammed the door shut. The boom echoed through the asylum. We skidded to a stop, nearly crashing into the rusted metal. I grabbed the handle, yanking with all my strength, but it wouldn't budge. Behind us, the laugh grew louder, rolling closer, filling every shadow. Evan's flashlight flickered and went out. He cursed, smacking it against his palm. Mine sputtered but held, its beam trembling as I swept it across the hallway. For a split second I saw something. Not the corpse. Not bones. But a man. Tall, hunched, his face twisted into a grin too wide for his skull. His eyes glimmered in the light. His wrists dangled with broken leather straps. And he was laughing. I screamed and rammed the door with my shoulder. Once, twice. On the third hit, the wood around the hinges splintered. The door burst open and cold night air rushed in. Evan and I spilled out onto the grass, sprinting for the fence without looking back. The laughter followed us until we were clear across the lot, until we scrambled over the chain link and hit the pavement of the street. Then it stopped. Just silence. We didn't say a word the whole walk home. The next morning I went back in daylight. Not inside, but close enough to see the asylum from the street. The door we'd busted open was sealed again, a rusted chain looped through the handles. And the word Chuckles was gone. Scrubbed clean as if it had never been painted at all. I never went back. Not once. A few years later, Willowbrook was torn down, the land flattened for redevelopment. Now it's just an empty lot with weeds poking through the cracked pavement. But sometimes late at night when the world is quiet, I hear it again. That laugh. Dry, raspy, echoing in the dark. And I know Chuckles is still out there, waiting for someone else to open the door. And that was the story of Chuckles the Patient. The man who was never supposed to leave the quiet room. Do you think he's still haunting the ruins of Willowbrook, or was it something even darker that followed them home? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more terrifying tales, and ring the bell so you never miss a night of horror. Until next time, sleep tight.